I would like to welcome you all for joining today's morning class with His Holiness Candramauli Maharaj. A very warm welcome to you all. Thank you all for joining. My humble obeisances to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisances to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Maharaj, clear.
Good. Okay. 1 minute. So, folder, SD card, music, other smells. So the next one has to come up on that same list. But we can't do anything now. You can take it and do it on your computer, right?
My computer is it's very fun.
All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yodhyatmiko yam purusham so saveva didaivakaha yastroyo bhyavichedheda purusho yabi bhautikaha. The individual person possessing different instruments of senses is called the Adhyatmic person, and the individual controlling deity of the senses is called Adhidaivic. The embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called the Adhibhautic person. The supreme controlling Sumbam is the personality of Godhead, and his plenary portion is Paramatma, or the super soul manifestation. Ataiva bahuna tena kim jatena tvarya varjunam vistabhyam idam snam ekam senastigo jagat. All the controlled deities like Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva are different manifestations of the Paramat feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who exhibits himself in such manners by entering into each and every universe generated from him. But still, apparently, there are divisions of the controller and the control. For example, in the food controlling department, the control of the food is a person made of the same ingredients as the person who is in control. Similarly, each and every individual in the material world is controlled by the higher demigods. For example, we have our senses. Can you put the fan on? But the senses are controlled by superior controlling deities. We cannot see without light, and the supreme control of light is the sun. The sun god in the sun is in the sun planet, and we, the individual human beings, or any other being on this earth, are all controlled by the sun god as far as our eyes are concerned. Similarly, all the senses we have are controlled by the superior demigods, who are also as much living entities as we are. But one is empowered while the other is controlled. The controlled living entity is called the Atmika person, and the controller is called the Adidaivika. All these positions in the material world are due to different fruitive activities. Any individual living being can become the sun god or even Brahma or any other god in the upper planetary system by a higher grade of pious work. And similarly, one becomes controlled by the higher demigods by lower grades of fruitive activities. So every living entity is subject to the supreme control of the Paramatma, who puts everyone in different positions of the controller and controlled. That which distinguishes the controller and the control, that is the material body, is called the Adibhautic person, Purusha. The body is sometimes called Purusha, or is conferred in the Vedas in the following hymns. Savai Esha Purushanarasa Maya. This body is called the Anarasa embodiment. This body depends on food. The living entity which is embodied does not eat anything, however, because the owner is spirit in essence. The material body requires replacement of matter for wearing and tearing of the mechanical body. Therefore, the distinction between the individual living entity and the controlling planetary deities is in the Anarasamaya body. The sun may have a gigantic body and the man have a smaller body, but all these visible bodies are made of matter. Nonetheless, the sun god and the individual person who are related as controlled and controlled are the same spiritual parts and parcels of the Supreme Being. And in the Supreme Being who places different parts and parcels in different positions, and thus the conclusion is that the Supreme Personality person is the shelter of all. Omigyan Timidandasya Gena Jana Salaka. Chaksavan Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale. Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami 29th. Namaste Saraswati Deve. Gauravani Pacharine Devasesa Sunyavadi. Pastyatya De Satarine. Vanchakalpa Tarubhischa. Kripa Sindhu Vacha. Patitanam Pavanebhyo. Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Prabhu Nityananda. Sri Advaita Gadadhar. Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So there's echelons of different control levels. We can control the animals. The animals are controlled by us, at least in some cases. The demigods can control us, and the higher beings control the demigods, and higher than that, super soul is controlling everything. So everyone is under control. No one is independent of any control. But we have a choice how to become controlled. And the choice is to accept the supreme controller as our means to be controlled. And then actually, we are not controlled because we become free in that control. That means we experience our nature as being of the same nature as the controller. That means we understand ourselves and also act differently than the material body, which is always under control. The soul has a tendency to get trapped in the material body and become controlled by the material body. Although living entity is of superior matter and the material body is inferior matter, because we misidentify ourselves with the material energy, then that forces us to be controlled by that same energy. So getting out of the control is the process of bhakti, or engaging in devotional service. And here, I mean, this is a nice explanation of the different elements on how everything is working in a controlled way. And if we allow the material body to control us, then we become influenced by one or many of the modes of material energy. And therefore, we become entangled in a kind of control that forces us to act in ways that are contrary to our spiritual nature. So we have to accept the control of someone. So therefore, one who wants to really be free but at the same time controlled in the freedom, accepts the control of the Supreme Lord, who is the supreme controller of everyone and everything at all levels. So by accepting the Lord's control, we enter into our spiritual essence, and therefore, although we are controlled, we are free, because spirit is not limited to anything. It can do anything, it can go anywhere. And because we are connected with Krishna in devotion, we're actually free from the control of the material body and control of the material energy. But no one can get away from the element of control. If everyone says, I'm not controlled by anyone, you should tell them that you're an illusion, because you're not. You have to be controlled in some way or another. Just like if you can get controlled by the state, or you can get controlled by the prison. In the state, you have more freedom. In the prison, your freedom is limited. But both are forms of control. So we can accept the control of the Supreme Lord by guiding us in a controlled way towards our goal of life, which is devotional service. Therefore, we accept superior control in order to gain freedom. And that freedom means that we can fulfill our desires perfectly and completely in relationship to that and to the Supreme Lord, who acts as a controller, because his type of control is not exploitative, but is nourishing and brings the soul into the realm of its own existence, so it can express itself in different ways. So on the spiritual level, there's no control, although we accept the control of Krishna. Because Krishna is free, we also become free, but at the same time, we're controlled by that freedom energy. But that control is actually a form of freedom, because it allows us to experiencing our spiritual nature. But material control is just bondage. It's limited, and it's always fraught with change, constantly changing. So one has to accept the control of higher authorities who work for the benefit of all living entities. So it's the duty of the spiritual master to place control upon his disciple in order to bring the disciple out of the control of the material energy. But again, that's beneficial for the living entity. So here it says that the living entity has freedom to become whatever they want to become, if they work according to a certain principle that allows one to move in a direction. So it says here, living can become the sun god of Lord Brahma. So what does that mean? The scriptures explain that in order to become Lord Brahma, you have to perform pious activities for at least 100 verses, maybe even more. So there's some price to pay in order to become a powerful controller in this material world. But devotees are happy not to be controllers in any way, but they want to be controlled by the supreme authority, who's the perfect controller, who works for the benefit of the person they're controlling. So staying controlled by the material energy means to be moving according to the movements of the material energy. Therefore, no one is free, because they're on the ocean, and they're being pushed in this way and that way by the waves of the ocean. And so they're not controlled. So in the same way, Unless we are controlled by the Supreme Lord, we're controlled by the material energy which pushes us in different directions to accept certain positions. We even may experience being the controller while being controlled at the same time. But that kind of control means that one is limited, or one is embodied by or entangled by that control. So we are already controlled by the body we live in. We might think that I control the body, but the body actually controls us. It has a certain demands that we have to fulfill, otherwise it won't function. So therefore, in order to keep the body going, we have to accept the needs of the body, and which is a form of control. And therefore, when one does that, they can accept the principle of the Supreme Lord. But in their elements of freedom, they're still controlled because they're under the same energy that they are getting free from. If you move from one level of jail cell to another level of jail cell, you might think I'm in a better position, but you're still controlled by the jail. So just to try to find a better position in the material world means to be controlled by another element, that's all. But the idea is to get out of the control by engaging in technical activities which bring the soul out of that entanglement. And that's the goal of life, to get unentangled from this material body, material duties, everything. This material world is very binding. It binds the living entity. And people can't even see it. That's free.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Do you
Yeah.
want to take any questions or we can conclude earlier?
Okay. Open it up for questions.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. So, dear devotees, if you have any comments, questions, you can post it.
Very simple explanation, very simple concept, but very detailed explanation.
Shridevi Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dinanath Prabhu. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to you, Guru Maharaj. So, as you were speaking about control and how it is always better for us to be under the spiritual energy, but at the same time, the body needs attention because it is like maintaining your car. You are not the car, but you need to maintain the car. So, sometimes the body's demands can become excessive and we may crave certain foods or certain things. At those times, how to understand that this is not necessary and bring the body under control of the mind? Or on other cases, maybe you're exerting a lot and you do need some extra nourishment. At that time, to understand, no, this is a legitimate need of the body and I'm not, just giving way to some impulse to eat or something. So, how to understand how to take care of the body nicely and not allow the cravings of the senses to control the body? Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, Dinanath.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe we can just.
So, Maharaj, with your permission, we can conclude today's class and then we can take the questions tomorrow, if that's okay, Maharaj.
Yeah, I'll see if there's any questions first.
Okay. Maharaj, there's no question in the chat window, so we can conclude.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patidanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha samaveta bhakta vrinda ki jai. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Or Vimanandi, Hari
Or
Hari.
Prabhupada.
Thank you very much.